Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning. And today, we've got another new shell that we've never tried, and it's one that one of you guys sent in. So huge thank you to Joseph for sending us some of these shells. I've been wanting to test them for a long time. I've just never had the chance to. So definitely a big thank you goes out to him, because these are some pretty highly regarded shells. So they should be able to perform pretty decently for us. But as for the shells we've got out here today, Joseph sent in some of the Viper ammunition 410 shells. These ones are the 410. They're actually a 2.5-inch shell with 11/16 ounce payload of number 9.5 TSS shot, moving about 1135 feet per second. So it's definitely going to be pretty interesting to see what these little 2.5-inch shells can do. From what I've seen and heard, Viper shells are generally some pretty good performers, but I haven't seen a whole lot of testing done on the 2.5-inch versions. So can they hold up to some of the stuff I've seen out of the 3-inch shells? I don't know, but we're going to find out what they can do one way or the other. But as for the setup we've got to run through today, I brought out the Mossberg 500 410 turkey here with this choke. Now this is the stock choke that came with the gun. It is an extra full turkey choke, but it measures out to be right at a 380 constriction. And I figured since these are 9.5s, they tend to like a little bit more constriction than something like a 9-shot would. So this 380 might be a good starting point. But as for the test today, everything is the same as usual. The turkey paper set up at 40 yards. I've also got the chronograph so we can get our velocity out of those shells. So we'll get you guys a view of the target, take the shot, look at the chrono, and then go look at our results. I definitely have some high hopes for these Viper shells. I've never tested them before. Plus, these are the 2.5-inch versions. So what can they actually do? Let's go over here and take the shot and just see what kind of a pattern we're actually able to get. Okay, so that shell gave us 1,095 through the chrono. The box says 1135, so we are a little bit under their claim, but still that's pretty much within the realm of reason for these shells. 1100 or right around that mark is probably what I would expect. So there's nothing too strange to see up here when it comes to the velocity, but how did they actually pattern down there? I don't think the Birchwood Casey did much for us, but let's go down and check it out and see what kind of a result we actually got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And yeah, the Birchwood Casey wasn't really worth anything for us, but I got the paint marker out so we could actually see what was going on. And what we see here is definitely a pretty interesting pattern. We have a really nice and hot and dense core area here. It's still a little bit more broad, it gives you a little bit more leeway. You don't necessarily have a baseball tight core, but a basketball area there, yeah, absolutely. A 10-inch circle over that core would look great. Now moving outside of that, we definitely have a little bit of blotchy, more broad open stuff around the edges here. It's definitely not terrible, but it is just a little bit noticeable, but it does afford you a little bit more leeway one way or the other. And outside of that, we definitely have a few flyers over there off the right, and down there at the bottom we have a couple. So maybe not the perfect pattern necessarily, but still for a 2.5-inch 410 shell at 40 yards, that is more than good enough to get you a turkey with. And it would look even better if we had it centered up just a little bit better on the paper. But still, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here out of these shells so far. That core area, I really like how that looks. It's not so tight that you have to worry about it in at closer ranges, but still that's a 40-yard capable pattern all day long with a little bit of leeway to work with. I'm not entirely surprised about the edges and the flyers, considering these are a 2.5-inch shell and a number 9.5, and the smaller shot sizes like 9.5 and 10s seem to produce a few more flyers and a little bit more sporadic of an edge than like the 9s would in a 410 for whatever reason, at least in my testing. But either way, for this pattern, if we had a 10-inch circle around that core, it would look really good in my opinion. Maybe with a little bit different choke, we can clean the edges up a little bit better. I would not be scared to hunt with that at all, and I'd say it's a pretty decent starting point for Viper ammo and these shells on the channel. So I guess we're gonna have to try them through a couple different chokes and see what happens. Maybe we get better, maybe this is as good as we can get, really don't know. But as for this kind of a start today, that would absolutely be a turkey hunting pattern out at 40 yards for you. Okay, and here's the wad from that shell, and it's actually a little bit surprising. I was expecting to see one of the like 3-petal wads, but no, this is more like a Winchester XX diamond grade type of shell with these 2 big petals. So definitely not quite exactly what I was expecting to see, but hey, it seems to have done its job pretty decently. There are a couple pinholes and stuff in here, but nothing necessarily unexpected going through a 380 like that. Overall here, I mean, the wad looks pretty much average. Definitely nothing special to see, but at least there's nothing stuck down in there, which is always a plus for 410. So not really anything too special to take note of, just a little bit different design than what I was expecting to see. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that pattern right there? For a 410, 2.5-inch shell at 40 yards, I'll take that. I think maybe with the right choke, we can clean the edges up just a little bit. It might not be the absolute tightest core imaginable, but it's still plenty good enough at 40 yards. And a pattern like that is going to give you a little bit of leeway to work with inside of 20 yards as well. I definitely think we should test it through a couple other chokes I've got, some more open chokes and stuff, and see what happens, because that might really be a good youth hunting load. That's for sure. But as for an initial test with Viper shells and their 2.5-inch 9.5s, really not a whole lot to complain about. I like to see a couple of those flyers go away, but that's just part of it sometimes. But as always, leave your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little bit surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any Viper shells or the Viper 2.5-inch, 9.5s or anything like we ran today? And what has been your results with them? And would you hunt with that kind of a pattern? Or would you want to see if you could maybe tune it in just a little bit? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it. But I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.